the Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Herold here on Badlands Media. I'm your host, John Herold, and there is quite a bit going on, as usual, and I'm actually going to be joined by a guest this morning to talk about some of it. So before we bring this gentleman on, let's get a quick word from the sponsors of today's show. First up, we have TackRight. Our sponsor, TackRight, just released an incredible product that 44% of American households are missing. It is recommended to have a life-saving trauma kit at home at all times, and a big part of America doesn't have one. Imagine this, you're at home and suddenly disaster strikes. Would you be prepared? Well, with TackRight's new trauma kit, you can be. These kits are packed with 82 essential tools designed to save lives when every second counts. TackRight is offering these kits at an unbelievable 50% off. That's right, half price for peace of mind. And trust me, you'll want more than one. Get one for your house, one for your car, and don't forget about your loved ones. Get your trauma kit today from our sponsor at 50% off. Just visit TackRightBadlands.com. Remember, in an emergency, having the right tools can mean the difference between life and death. So don't wait. Get your TackRight trauma kit today at TackRightBadlands.com and be prepared for whatever life throws your way. Awesome. Thank you, TackRight, for sponsoring. We also have one more, and I might do one later on. I'll talk to you guys about that later. Safe Streets. Where are we at here? Okay, now's the perfect time to secure your home and your loved ones. Get a free ADT smart home security system valued at $1,200 from ADT authorized provider Safe Streets. Plus, get a Google Nest doorbell camera at no cost and a $200 Visa gift card from Safe Streets, the most trusted name in home security with more than 106,000 4.9-star Trust Pilot reviews. Go to getsafestreets.com/badlands or call 925-529-6541. That's 925-529-6541. to speak to a representative today. $99 customer installation charge and purchase of new monitoring service required for the termination fee to apply. Whew, that was a mouthful. That's what she said. All right, let's bring on Gordon. How you doing, man? Oh, you're muted. Try unmuting in StreamYard.
There we go.
Awesome.
What's up,
going, man?
Good.
Well, what is up is Israel bombed the living daylights out of Gaza allegedly last night. And so when I saw that, I was like, hey, you know what? I should probably bring this Middle Eastern expert of ours on and talk about it. And I found it most interesting because, well, one, it violates the ceasefire technically, and a bunch of Arab nations are accusing them of violating the ceasefire. And that's kind of what I wanted to discuss here. Some of these countries, Jordan's foreign ministry called on Israel to adhere to the ceasefire agreement in all its phases, warning of the potential for regional stability. Egypt said it was a blatant violation. Qatari said yet another heinous crime. Saudi Arabia condemned it, saying direct shelling of civilian areas with no regard for international humanitarian law. The kingdom stresses the importance of an immediate cessation of Israeli killing, violence, and destruction, as well as the protection of Palestinian civilians from the unjust Israeli war machine, Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry said on X. So let's see what you got.
Yeah, this is a really, really interesting one, and the timing of it is very important, and it's definitely connected to the recent bombing of the Houthis, in my opinion. We'll get into all that. But first, I think it probably makes the most sense to play the video that I sent you.
Okay.
To start there. This video is from last Sunday, so not 2 days ago, but but a week ago. So let's listen to this. This is Adam Bowler. He is the U.S. Special Envoy for Hostage Negotiations working under Steve Witkoff.
All right.
Reporter Barak Ravid is reporting the top Israeli official, Ron Dermer, strongly discouraged you from talking directly with Hamas. He said it was a tense phone call. Tell us about that. Do you understand why Netanyahu, Dermer, others might be upset?
I do understand. I spoke with Ron, and I'm sympathetic. He has someone that he doesn't know well, making direct contact with Hamas. Maybe I would see them and say, look, they don't have horns growing out of their head. They're actually guys like us. They're pretty nice guys. So he doesn't know me, and there are big stakes. He lives in a country where if it sets certain precedents, then it will hurt or help a lot of other people. So I understand the consternation and the concern, and I wasn't upset. At the same time, we're the United States. We're not an agent of Israel. We have specific interests at play. And we did communicate back and forth. We had very specific parameters by which we fell. And the reality is what I wanted to do is jumpstart some negotiations that were in a very fragile place. And I wanted to say to Hamas, what is the end game that you want here? Not the dream end game, but what do you think is realistic at this point? Because until we know that, it's very hard to reach some sort of truce or some sort of end to hostility. So in the end, I think it was a very helpful meeting. It was very helpful to hear some back and forth. But I think Israel knows walking out of that, it's not like Hamas got the world because I thought they were a bunch of nice guys.
Right. How quickly could something come together in terms of this negotiation?
I think something could come together within weeks. I will say that I believe there is enough there to make a deal between what Hamas wants and what they've accepted, and what Israel wants and it's accepted. And I think I think there is a deal where they can get all of the prisoners out, not just the Americans.
All right, explain the significance of that.
Okay, so the reason that Netanyahu and Ron Dermer, who's like his Dan Scavino, were angry was because this guy, for the first time since October 7th, sat down in a room face to face with Hamas and spoke to them directly. Before, when they would go to Qatar, it sounds like what was happening is the U.S. Israel envoy would be in one room, and then you'd have Hamas in the other room, and the Qataris or the Saudis, whoever it was going back and forth, like mediating between them. This guy was like, I don't want to do that. I want to meet directly with them face to face. And so that caused a lot of anger and a lot of fury in Tel Aviv.
That's the silliest way to negotiate. Like that's how I negotiate between my kids when they're mad at each other. Like they'll be in opposite rooms and like, I'm not talking to you anymore. And so you go like play the telephone game. That's insane.
Exactly.
Anyway, sorry.
No, spot on. And so what happens is that this all broke last Sunday. We were talking about it with Brian on Badlands Daily last week. And then the media basically goes in a full-blown destroy this guy mode. Like we're going to destroy Adam Bowler. Adam Bowler, by the way, is like my favorite person in the world right now. He's the horse that I would be betting on if I was betting on a horse here.
What the heck, bro?
Yeah. Dude, he's
your second favorite person in the world.
Second favorite person in the world, but very, very base. Probably the most base guy in geopolitics at this moment. And awesome. so the whole media, all you have to do is go to Google and type in his name, and you will see just all the articles trying to destroy him and his character. And you heard him in that clip. He said 2 different times, I actually thought they were a bunch of nice guys. I mean, that's like the worst thing. It's like Netanyahu's biggest nightmare for him to say that to the world. And so if you want to share my screen, I grabbed a bunch of headlines from last week and just threw on the mind map so we could just run through them real quick. So here's that specific deployment. That is March 9th from last week. And then after that, there are a lot
real quick. Are you going to tie this to the shellings that took place last night?
100%.
You are? Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yeah. So then there were a bunch of reports about how this was a bad situation. What Bowler was negotiating was the release of the American-Israeli hostages, which very important to understand. The American-Israeli hostages, all of them were enlisted soldiers in the IDF, and they were captured in the course of combat. The media presents it as like people like tourists on vacation, but they are soldiers in combat who were captured. This guy goes in to get them back. He cuts a deal where Hamas says we will release the one living U.S. soldier, U.S. Israeli IDF soldier, along with the 4 bodies that we have of the dead ones. And then Dermer and Netanyahu said that's absolutely unacceptable. We're not going to allow it to happen. And then, of course, the next day we get the report Netanyahu Dermer worked to stop U.S. Hamas deal to free only American captives. And as it says in the headline right here, U.S. officials says they are afraid it will become clear who doesn't want a hostage deal. And that is the exact rhetoric that Donald Trump told Barack Ravid, who is the reporter that they were talking about in that clip. He's Trump's favorite Israeli journalist. And Trump told him in December 2021 that Netanyahu did not want to make a deal for a 2-state solution, and only Abbas from Palestine wanted to make a deal.
Okay.
And then, of course, the media was screaming because the White House had withdrawn this guy's nomination to be the special envoy for U.S. hostage negotiations. But then it was reported, of course, that the next day that Bowler himself had actually withdrawn his nomination, which I guess maybe requires a Senate confirmation. I'm not really sure, but he himself withdrew it like 3 weeks ago, like before he ever went over there and met with the Qatari. So that's a signal to me that he knew exactly what he was about to do when he went over there, which is basically to toss a grenade in the room and close the door, which is what he just did on CNN.
Okay, so bring it full circle. Why did this lead to the attacks from last night?
So the attacks from last night were always going to happen. The resumption of the war was always going to happen. This was always part of Netanyahu's plan. There was
Why do you say that?
Well, because the moment Netanyahu leaves office, the moment the war ends, Netanyahu is probably going to be out of office because his support in the government is going to collapse. The guys who he has been forced into an alliance with, the people he's brought in to serve in his cabinet, in exchange for their support in the Knesset, they will leave the government once the war ends. They've already said that multiple times. They said, if you stop the fight, we're going to leave. And if we leave, the government collapses and you stop being prime minister. And so he has no choice but to resume the war. And here's Barak Ravid, he was the first person to report on the airstrikes. This is him on X. And so first he's posting a video. This is Netanyahu, the prime minister, and Israel Katz, who is now the defense minister. He was the foreign minister up until recently. And it says the Israeli government has renewed the war in Gaza in a proactive manner with large sections of the public suspicious of its motives. Read my commentary, etc. Then he post.
Can I ask you here quick?
Yeah.
What is Israel's reason? Like, what are they saying their reason is for doing this?
They are saying that Hamas was rearming and reorganizing and preparing to start a fight anyway. So they're saying that they preemptively attacked before Hamas could regroup and reorganize and rearm itself. That's they're saying.
Dumbest reason I've ever heard. Every country is always rearming and reorganizing and preparing for war. You just hope you never have to do it. Yep. That I don't think is going to sit well. But okay, so how does the guy from last week, that Dahmer guy, or
Bowler, yeah.
So where do those two things connect? Like that, I'm still missing that, I think.
So those two things connect. Listen to what Barak Ravid says here, and I think it'll start to become clear. So Barak Ravid then quote posts that tweet, and he says the ceasefire. This is his own commentary. The ceasefire did not collapse; it was collapsed by the Israeli government. The Israeli government never intended to fully implement the ceasefire agreement signed 2 months ago. It violated one of its key provisions, reneged on it, and tried to force an alternative arrangement on Hamas. And it's worth noting that this guy was from Unit 8200, which is the Israeli military intelligence, which is separate from Mossad. Mossad is like the CIA, and this guy was former military intelligence, and now he's a reporter. But so what he's saying there is that, and this is something that we were tracking on the Badlands Substack in the news brief. But they set the terms for Hamas. And then at the last minute, they tried to renege on it, and they tried to change the conditions and say, we now want all of Hamas leadership to leave Gaza and never come back. That was never part of the original ceasefire that they signed in January 19. And then Steve Witkoff, actually, as part of like the stuff that Bowler was working on, Steve Witkoff said, this is from the same story from last week, that they were offering a bridge proposal to extend the ceasefire to the end of Ramadan, to April 19th, which would give both sides more time to sign a full end to the war, which is what I think Bowler was describing in that clip. He said we're a few weeks away, I think, from actually ending the war, bringing all the hostages home, and putting an end to all this. And Steve Witkoff confirmed that. And so Netanyahu now has his back up against the wall. There's one more wrinkle to this, and that is the two Shin Bet directors. Right now, the current director of the
Shin Bet?
The Shin Bet is the Israeli FBI.
Okay.
So the current director, his name is Ronan Bar. He has opened weeks ago a probe into the origins of the October 7th attack and leaked a report that said that the money for the attack came from Qatar. In response to that, the Qatari government came out and said, wait a minute. All we did was send tens of millions of dollars to you, Netanyahu, and said that money was for Gaza. You said you would make sure it reached Gaza, and it was you who secretly walked that money into Gaza and gave it to Hamas back in 2018, 2019. You're the one who funded Hamas for the October 7th attack, not us. And so then that resulted in Netanyahu saying, well, now I have to fire the director of the Shin Bet because this is all blowing up my face. And one more thing, but when that happened,
TLDR, keep it short.
The old director of the Shin Bet, who was in office from 2016 to 2021, went on Israeli television last week and said, if Netanyahu fires the Shin Bet director, the current guy, I'm going to come forward and disclose everything I know about what Netanyahu did to fund Hamas that led to October 7th. That then led to Netanyahu filing a police report saying this guy is blackmailing him by threatening to tell the truth about what happened.
Okay, but so how does that connect to these attacks from yesterday?
So right now,
briefly, if you could.
Yeah. So right now you have basically the walls closing in on Netanyahu. You have this probe that is active where the current FBI director in Israel is interrogating or investigating all of his inner circle to figure out who knew what when it comes to October 7th. Netanyahu's trying to fire him, which is leading to a huge upheaval in the Israeli political landscape. The attorney general is saying you don't have authority because it's a conflict of interest. The ex-Shin Bet director is saying, I'm going to come forward and expose everything I know about October 7th if you do this. So his back's up against the wall. And then all of a sudden you get this massive airstrike against Hamas. And look what happens. The one guy, one of these radicals who left the government, resigned because of the ceasefire negotiation on January 19th, has now returned to the government with his coalition, with his faction, and said, we now support you because you've resumed the war. So by resuming the war, he gets more radical zealots to join the government and support him. And that's what he needs in order to stay in office.
Interesting. Well, man, that's really good info. I know on Friday you're going to do a deep dive. And were you on with CanCon this morning?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, so I'm sure you talked about this too. I just wanted to give the audience for the show a quick recap of what's going on and why. So I appreciate you joining, man. Yep. Probably going to have you on again this week, if not next week. It's like a weekly thing now. So we will catch you later, man. I just have so much more I got to get to. So,
gotcha. Later, man.
Catch you later, bud. All right. He is a wealth of knowledge. And this situation is so interesting because this definitely connects to what's going on over in with the Houthis and what Trump did, bombing the crap out of the Houthis. And it's led to this whole debate of, we're just going to do a few geopolitical things here. Yesterday, Trump had this post. Let me pull it up. I just got to find the right one here. But we did read through it. You'll probably remember. Let's see. Hold for processing. Okay, this one where he's talking about, I'm going to blame Iran if there's any more bombings of our stuff, anything. We're essentially going to say it was Iran doing it because we know they're dictating all the moves, they're financing all this stuff, et cetera, et cetera. There's a connection between Iran and Hamas, right? Through financial support, kind of the same thing. Hamas, the Houthis. Again, I'm no expert on any of this geopolitical stuff. I'm just connecting some dots here because all these geopolitical scenarios, they're all connected. Every one of them. The peace deal in the Middle East with Hamas and Israel, with the Houthis situation there in Iran, both Saudi Arabia and Putin of Russia said that they would mediate discussions between Trump and Iran to settle that. And then when Trump has this post yesterday, it was actually really interesting. Thomas Massey came out and said this, and this was the dumbest thing I've seen in a week or so. Constitutional PSA. To strike Iran requires a vote of Congress because it's an act of war. This is fundamentally incorrect. I'm almost astounded that he actually said this, especially like with the bravado that he did, putting an emoji and saying constitutional public service announcement. To declare war on any country does require a vote of Congress. But notice he didn't put that in there. He put to strike Iran because that's essentially what Trump said. If we get attacked anymore, we are considering this to be Iran who did it, and we will respond. And so he's trying to flex his, congressional muscle and be like, no, Trump, you can't actually do that. Maybe even sending the groundwork for some sort of impeachment thing if he does. But he's wrong here. He's absolutely wrong. And this is something that, I've studied I've studied war power stuff with my devolution series pretty extensively, trying to understand, if I'm right about what I think I'm right about here, and Trump did do something, how could he do it? What would authority be? Like, what would the discussions be about whether or not it was actually constitutional? All these things. I've dug pretty deep into constitutionality and war powers and all those things. And I always come back to this Campbell versus Clinton situation. This is a court ruling from the 90s, and they were drawing back on the prize cases from after the Civil War. The court recognizing that the president has no power to initiate or declare war. So they even acknowledge that, yeah, that's Congress's job to initiate or declare war. They observed that war may exist without a declaration on either side. In instances where war is declared against the United States by the actions of another country, like, say, the Houthis bombing our ships and stuff, the president does not initiate the war, but is bound to accept the challenge without waiting for any special legislative authority. Importantly, the court made clear that it would not dispute the president on measures necessary to repel foreign aggression. The president alone must determine what degree of force the crisis demands. Thomas Massie, that was so dumb, and very proud of you, bro. Again, not a big fan of his. Haven't been pretty much ever. I don't like anybody in Congress, but I especially love it when they get stuff wrong, when they're trying to dunk on people. It's one of my favorite things. Sticking with geopolitical stuff, right now we have Trump on the phone with Russia. At least the call was like 8 a.m. this morning or 9 a.m. my time, so whatever, 9 or 10 Eastern. They were on the phone as of an hour ago still, according to Dan Scavino. We haven't had word yet whether or not the phone call is done with. I just know that they've been on the phone like all morning. And I'm trying to see if I can find any updates on this. This is Scavino. Yeah, this is an hour ago. This is 2 hours ago that they were still on the phone. The call was still in progress, and we have not had any updates since. So I don't know. I don't know what's coming of that. But okay, let's go back to this. Sorry, guys, I'm getting like a million messages here trying to keep up what's going on. Okay. Trump administration weighs recognizing Crimea as Russian territory in peace talks, which is exactly what they wanted from day one, right? Again, the original negotiations. Trump administration is considering recognizing Crimea as Russian territory as part of the potential agreement to end the war. Officials have also explored the possibility of urging the UN to acknowledge Russia's claim over the region, aligning the administration with Russian President Vladimir Putin's longstanding position that Crimea belongs to Russia. Again, exactly kind of where we've been this whole time, but more stories acknowledging it. We have Xi potentially coming to Washington to talk trade with Trump. This was announced yesterday. President Trump announced that Chinese leader Xi Jinping would visit Washington in the near future, whatever that means, as trade tensions between the U.S. and China continue. Xi will be coming in the not-too-distant future, Trump said Monday while attending a board meeting at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Trump has intensified his trade stance against China, raising tariffs on Chinese imports to 20%. A move he says is a response to Beijing's failure to curb the flow of illegal fentanyl and its precursor chemicals. The Wall Street Journal was previously reporting a potential birthday summit, since both their birthdays are in June. That'd be kind of funny, like a joint birthday party like they did back in like grade schools. Trump did not specify a date for the potential meeting, but I mean, it's noteworthy. I anticipate he's going to be hearing or meeting with all these foreign leaders at some point. And one more comment I want to make, going back to the Iran situation, because I saw a lot of people on Twitter yesterday, these Twitter professionals, saying war with Iran, like it's almost inevitable at this point, a full-scale war with Iran. I can probably even find the actual tweet here if you give me 1 second. Right. Okay, this guy, no idea who he is, Dominic Trippy. All signs point to a full-scale war with Iran. And I responded, and I do this all the time. I don't know how I do it, but I responded with a misspelled word. I said all signs point to a full scare war with Iran instead of full scale. But it reminds me of back in 2017, 2018, when I wasn't even paying attention to politics. I remember them talking about, with Trump in office, we got to be careful because we are on the verge of a full scale war with North Korea. We're going to get into nuclear war with North Korea. It's the same vibe I'm getting from this. But again, it's this Iran situation and all these geopolitical situations, these peace talks and moving to the chess pieces, they all go hand in hand. Like peace with Iran is going to happen with peace in the Middle East with Hamas and Israel, along with the Ukraine-Russia war. It all goes hand in hand. All the same players are negotiating peace, but they tell us, they're discussing peace about just the Ukraine and Russia war. And then separately, all the same players are discussing peace about Hamas and Israel. And then separately, they're all discussing peace, United States and Iran, all these things. It's all the same, in my opinion. Anyway, continued. Let's see what else I got. I got quite a bit to go through. Oh, this has been a fun one. And this goes back to the Massey thing. Sorry if everything's out of order. Gordon threw me off a little bit because it was a last minute invite. But okay, so the Trump's mass deportation thing, Tren de Aragua, the Alien Enemy Act, this is kind of like the legal question right now. And one we've been looking for, one we've been wanting. We want to have this question answered, but people are freaking out. Mainstream media is freaking out, saying it's not in his authority. There's this legal battle going on between the Trump administration trying to get the judge removed. We have Trump posting this on his Truth Social. This was this morning. This radical left lunatic of a judge, a troublemaker and agitator who was sadly appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, was not elected president. He didn't win the popular vote by a lot. He didn't win all 7 swing states. He didn't win 2,750 to 525 counties. He didn't win anything. I won for many reasons in an overwhelming mandate, but fighting illegal immigration may have been the #1 reason for this historic victory. I am just doing what the voters wanted me to do. This judge, like many of the crooked judges I am forced to appear before, should be impeached. We don't want vicious, violent, and demented criminals, many of them deranged murderers, in our country. Make America great again. And hold on, I got to find this other post. Where's it at? Hold for processing. So there's another story. Okay, well, let's go to this. Trump administration seeks removal of Judge Boasberg is his name, from deportations case. They asked the D.C. Circuit Court to remove Chief U.S. District Judge James Boasberg from the Venezuelan deportations case, arguing that he improperly turned it into a class action suit. The DOJ also stated that the government cannot and will not be compelled to address national security matters at today's hearing. Of course not. DOJ Deputy Assistant Attorney General Drew Ensign stated the government cannot and will not be forced to answer sensitive questions of national security and foreign relations in a rushed posture without orderly briefing. Answering them, especially on the proposed timetable, is flagrantly improper. He also argued the court should be immediately reassigned this case to another district, given the highly unusual and improper procedures. For example, certification of a class action involving members of a designated foreign terrorist organization. That is pretty nuts. Like, I don't even know if we have a true class action lawsuit against domestic social media companies for censoring an entire class of political beliefs. I don't even know if we have a true one yet, but there's a class action lawsuit for a foreign terrorist organization because Trump deported them using his presidential authority. That's just insane. On Saturday, Texas Republican Representative Brandon Gill announced on X, formerly Twitter, his intention to file articles of impeachment aimed at removing Boasberg. He indicated that the motion would be submitted this week. Elon Musk followed up with a single-word reply, as necessary. And then on top of that, we got this new case, or this new news here. And this broke just like right before going live here. Chief Justice Roberts says impeachment not a response to judicial rulings. Okay, bro. U.S. Chief Justice John Roberts stated that impeaching federal judges is not an appropriate response to disagreements over their rulings. Roberts' rare public remark came just hours after President Trump called for the impeachment of a judge who attempted to halt the deportation of hundreds of alleged Venezuelan gang members. For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. Roberts said the normal appellate review process exists for that purpose. And this brings us back to freaking Marbury versus Madison, this judicial review BS ruling that is the precedent here. And you know what? I totally disagree with John Roberts. If you have a judge who's trying to overstep his authority and step on the president's authority and prevent him from doing his job, his duty, something that's fully within his constitutional right to do, then yeah, impeachment is the least of that judge's concern. He should be impeached and thrown in prison, if I'm being totally honest, because this is totally just politics. This isn't about what the law says and how it's interpreted. He turned it into a class action lawsuit. That's a joke. He gave a foreign terrorist organization a class action lawsuit. It's insane. I mean, maybe the reason Trump is going to kind of play ball, whatever, and let this go through the courts, as we discussed on Saturday, is to just make sure it's done by the proper channels so we can get that ultimate ruling that it went from, district court to appellate court to Supreme Court. I don't even know if that's the right order, but you know what I'm saying? It's going through the process. And then we finally get the ruling at the end, 3 years from now, once it finally gets there, and we'll know that Trump could have done what he said he could have done the entire time. But regardless, as we say, there's no way to enforce this ruling. You really can't enforce any rulings from the judicial branch unless the DOJ itself is in alignment with you. Because the DOJ, they're the ones that are going to enforce it. And if they completely disagree, I don't see how this is enforced. So I don't know. There's rumors out there of this judge being connected to Roberts. They know each other. I think this judge was on a FISC court appointed by Roberts. I don't know if any of it's true, so I didn't pull it up to actually go into detail on it. I think there's more digging we got to do on it. But anyway, this is just such an interesting situation. The whole thing, I'm loving it. And again, Campbell versus Clinton, familiarize with this, with that ruling. Go to devolution.link, click on the introduction article. It's in there, or just search Campbell versus Clinton. The president is allowed to respond to situations as he sees fit. I think that plays a role with Iran. It plays a role with the deportation of these illegal aliens. The president's authority. We're going to hammer that home, guys. You guys need to understand that too. All right, this was from yesterday. This is a pretty big deal.
Tomorrow you have the JFK files. What time will they be released?
Tomorrow after research.
Tomorrow.
Yes. Have you seen what's in the files? Have you read them?
I've heard about it.
Was there,
Anything interesting?
It's going to be very interesting.
was there an executive summary supplied to you, Mr. President,
No,
regarding
I'm
this?
not doing summaries. You'll write your own summaries.
Okay, so a couple of things. Well, JFK files coming out this afternoon. Look how far away now the press is with their boom mics after somebody hit Trump in the face on Friday. I think that's pretty funny. Also, I mean, I'm by no means an artist. Okay. I am not an artist. But I feel like this piece of art in the background here, I wouldn't buy that for my house. It looks damaged. Is that art? I feel like I know people that could do this and make it look probably better. I have no idea what I'm talking about, by the way, but I don't know. It just doesn't look that. Oh, I bet that's a $2 million piece too. Hilarious. Anyway, JFK files this afternoon. We'll see what happens. As I've said before with this stuff, I don't think the government is going to put in the government files that hey guys, we killed JFK. Our bad. Don't think that's going to happen. But maybe we'll get some other tangential stuff that might be interesting. I really don't know. If they're just releasing all 80,000 at once, then that could be difficult to go through. I hope they just release the stuff that we haven't seen yet, unless they release it all completely unredacted, which is what should be done. But if you guys go to NARA's website, and actually, you know what? Let me show you. We have that special D-class task force, right? Anna Paulina Luna, my dear friend. She's got this huge crush on me. Let me pull this up. Anna Paulina Luna. She's been flirting with me a lot lately, but she decided to let us know. And within her duties, she called NARA. Okay, she called the National Archives just to let us know that all the JFK files being released tomorrow, they're going to be housed at this link. And I'm just so appreciative of her using her role as chair of the D-class subcommittee thing to do this. This is taxpayer money at work, guys. I never would have thought that the newly released JFK files would be under the JFK collection at NARA. This link that's been here for 10 years plus. Never would have guessed. That it would probably have been the last place I looked had Anna Polina Luna not had that phone call with Nara. So really appreciate all the hard work she's doing. Looking forward to what she gets out of this committee's the JFK D class. Oh man, I got a lot to go through. I'm just gonna breeze through a couple of these stories. But yeah, by the way, that was sarcasm for those who didn't catch that. She drives me nuts. And anyway, dozens of countries willing to send peacekeeping troops to Ukraine, the UK says. The UK is still like trying to do their own peace plan stuff on the side, even though they're not at all in any way involved in the actual peace discussions. Like, yeah, we'll send peace troops now. We'll get 30 countries to help send peace troops. I don't know if Putin's going to be okay with NATO peace troops being in Ukraine. That's like part of they don't want NATO. Get out of here. So I can't imagine that flying, but it's just funny they're still trying to be relevant in this peace discussion. They're going to do what they're told at the end of the day. A judge has ordered Fani Willis to pay legal fees over open records violation. If you guys remember, this is stemming back from Trump's RICO prosecution. The ruling stems from a case related to Willis's failed racketeering prosecution of President Trump. In October 2024, Fulton County Superior Court Judge Rachel Krause indicated that Willis would lose the case and face financial penalties. On Friday, she made it official. The law doesn't apply to you, Krause remarked sarcastically during a hearing last year, criticizing a government attorney for the DA's office. Attorney Ashley Merchant, who represents Trump co-defendant Michael Roman, had sued Willis's office for withholding public records related to the former special prosecutor Nathan Wade's employment and pay. Wade was forced to resign from the Trump case after revelations of his past romantic relationship with Willis. Merchant also sought records detailing the DA's use of public funds. Instead of complying, Willis' office delayed the request for months, all these things. But yeah, she's got to pay $54,000 in attorney fees and litigation costs and turn over the documents within 30 days. So suck it, Fani Willis. Is that inappropriate saying that? It's not a swear word. Am I allowed to say that? You guys let me know in the chat. I have no idea what my leeway is on some of my no swearing policy. This is just so weird. Newsom sent a bunch of prepaid phones, like burners, to tech CEOs. Like, what is this guy doing? He started a podcast and he's just trying to become relevant with Charlie Kirk and Bannon's audience. Like going on, those are the people he's interviewing. I guess I would go on his show if he asked me, but I would just call him names the whole time. Dude's an idiot. But now he sent 100 leaders of his state, like people who are headquartered in his state, tech CEOs, prepaid cell phones, saying, if you ever need anything, I'm a phone call away. He's really laying the groundwork, and he's laying it on thick to try to be president. Like, he wants to be the next president. And it's interesting because the left, like The View, those type of people with the worst instances of Trump derangement syndrome, they are not happy with what Newsom is doing with his podcast. But he is definitely good. Okay, so the chat says, you're good, John. Man determined what words are bad. Okay. It looks like we got a consensus that I can tell people I don't like to suck it on my show. I appreciate that. Let's see what I got next. Yeah, I have so many little stories from this Alien Enemy Act thing. I'm not even going to go into this one, but Stephen Miller was on CNN and he was talking about this, and I'm just going to read this one paragraph. Or maybe two paragraphs. Actually, I'm going to read these three. Change my mind. The growing showdown is so critical because the courts are one of the final checks on Trump's power after he crushed opposition in the Republican Party. Okay, I didn't want to read that. Never mind. Here we go. Miller argued that since Trump was flexing his powers as commander-in-chief, the courts had no right to hold him to account. Defined one of the tenets of American democracy upheld through the three branches of government. He said the Alien Enemies Act, which has a dubious historical legacy, that's CNN's editorializing, was written explicitly to give the president the authority to repeal an alien invasion of the United States. That is not something that a district judge has any authority whatsoever to interfere with. I think John Adams was actually there when they issued the Alien Enemy Act. Anyway, sorry for everything being out of order. I'm just cruising through my tabs here. NASA's two astronauts, Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore, are finally returning home after 9 months in space. We finally did it, guys. In 1969, we were able to put astronauts on the moon. And in 2014, we were able to strand astronauts in space for 9 months. And we finally got them back. This is just such a victory for everybody This story is just ridiculous. Like, it was a 2-day mission or something, or a week mission. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. It was a week mission, like for a week, 7 days, and I don't even know if that's true, but let's just pretend. How did they have provisions for 9 months? Like, is NASA's planning that good that they have years of food up there? Maybe it is. Totally hypothetical question, but like, if I'm going on vacation, it's going to take me a day to drive. I might pack a couple extra things, but I'm not going to send 9 months worth of provisions for a 2-day drive, right? The whole story it's weird to me, but they finally got him home. Congrats to everybody involved. Let's see what else I got here. There are no new presidential actions on the website, so that's a bummer. They teased me with the pace they were unloading those at early on, and now it's slowed down, and it's very disappointing. Oh, do you guys remember Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, the two IRS whistleblowers from the Hunter Biden situation? Well, here's a story for you. It's from Scott Bessent, Secretary of Treasury. I'm pleased to welcome Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler to the U.S. Treasury Department, where they will help us drive much-needed cultural reform within the IRS. These veteran civil servants join us to help further the agency's focus on collections, modernization, and customer service. I appreciate Senator Chuck Grassley's efforts in Congress to support whistleblower protections in order to improve transparency, accountability, and root out the culture of retaliation. I like it. When those two whistleblower stuff came out, and I can't remember which committee it was, but I read through both of those. They were really good, really revealing. I thought they revealed some ongoing investigations outside of what we've been made aware of. But obviously those with Weiss resigning after the pardons, which, by the way, just thought of something. Weiss shut down his investigation and the criminal trial of Hunter Biden because of the pardons. Trump yesterday said those pardons carry no weight. They carry no weight. They're null and void. Are we going to see those investigations open back up? I don't know how I didn't think of that yesterday. Very interesting. This is not that interesting, but it's next in line on my tabs. Adam Sandler is making another movie. I swear this guy makes like 10 movies a year, but he's making Happy Gilmore too. And I just got to comment again. I'm so sick of Hollywood not being able to ever do anything new. I never see anything new. Not that I really watch TV or much anyway. I just watch the same stuff. I used to watch The Office every night to fall asleep. Now it's not on Netflix anymore. I should just cancel Netflix. But anyway, Happy Gilmore 2. It might be interesting. I probably won't watch it, but I'm just sick of Hollywood never doing anything new. So I just want to point that out. What else we got? Yeah, still nothing on the call with Putin. This is interesting. And I don't even know if this is true. This, what is this account? Watcher Guru. These guys are associated with that BRICS account. Like the BRICS one you see. This remarks is associated with them. I don't know where these are all coming from, but if this is true, where Russia is reportedly discussing space cooperation with Elon Musk, I doubt they've just started discussing this now. Elon Musk himself revealed months ago that over the course of the last 5 years, 6 years, whatever it's been, that he has had personal phone calls with Putin quite often. I don't remember the exact details, but they talk on the phone quite a bit. So this is notable. I think we're going to see something big here, and this is probably going to be in line with the peace negotiations going on as well. So just something to be aware of. What else we got? I might not have that much more. Oh, here's Chuck Schumer on The View.
And you know what their attitude is? I made my money all by myself. How dare your government take my money from me? I don't want to pay taxes. Or I built my company with my bare hands. How dare your government tell me how I should treat my customers, the land and water that I own, or my employees? They hate government. Government's a barrier to people, a barrier to stop them from doing things. They want to destroy it. We are not letting them do it, and we're united.
Okay, good.
I wasn't sure if that music was on that clip. I was looking around trying to figure out if I had a tab open somewhere, but it was on that clip, and that was, I don't know, weird vibe. But all right, guys, I had less news than I thought. I could have kept Gordon on. That was my bad. My bad, Gordon. Could have done with a little less TLDR. I just get so nervous because I never know how many how long it's going to take, and I always want to be under an hour. But a couple exciting things. Thursday, I'm going to be having. Let me make sure I say the name right. Yeah, Dr. Stella Manuel. You guys might remember her from the COVID time. She's going to come on for a little bit because I got some questions about the measles situation going on. And so we'll have her on briefly on Thursday. Friday, I got Chanel Rion joining the show towards the end to discuss the White House press corps a little bit and maybe pick her brain about what she can do to get us in there. But yeah, she'll be joining the show on Friday, working on getting more guests. We got a couple contacts with some actual people in Congress, which is awesome. So hoping to get some of them on soon too. Ghost of Base Patrick Henry in the chat says there's a Netanyahu presser at 2. Is that today? Ghost, can you confirm that? We'll see. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up here. I will be right back to read what looks like a couple rants. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up. Get your GART tickets. Plymouth is on sale. We've sold 40% of the tickets so far, which is great. But if you want to come, we don't want you to miss out. Get your tickets. Yeah, and today on Badlands Live, if you guys want to watch the Netanyahu presser, which Ghost is going to be hosting. And before we go, actually, I'm going to do one sponsorship from Rumble. So this is a new thing. We're trying to get a little more active with what Rumble's got going on in their system that they're doing. And that will require us on occasion to do some of these other ads. So I'm going to give this a shot here, if I can get this to load. And then I'll do rants and get you guys out of here. So let's do this one. 5G free. I want to talk about things that people are afraid to say out loud. Who is in control of America's nukes? It wasn't Biden. Right now it's Trump, probably. Meanwhile, we have Russian ships off the coast of Florida and full-blown wars in Ukraine and Israel. I think this sponsorship ad might be a little old. They need to update the script. But anyway, the world is at its most unstable point since World War II, and with nuclear weapons, the stakes are 10 times higher. How do people like you and I stay safe? Every prepper needs to have RadioGuard ACE, the only FDA-approved drug to treat radioactive fallout. Only the feds had it until now. That's why Rumble partnered with 5G Free, the only company in the world that has a supply of RadioGuard ACE and the ability to prescribe it prophylactically. I love how they spelt it like sound out as anyway phonetically. Get their radiation emergency kit with RadioGuard ACE, potassium iodide, Zofran, and a Geiger counter. There's simply no other tool in your arsenal to protect against a radioactive threat. Go to 5gfree.com, code STUDIO to save 15% on your radiation kit now. Well, that sounds cool. I mean, I feel like if we get nuclear fallout, we're all dead anyway. I don't know how good the pills are going to do, but I support Rumble sponsors. If you are concerned about that, you have free will and you can choose to do it. But thank you for being patient with me. Let's do the closing video here and we'll come back for the rants and get you out of here.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
3. Let's get started.
That's what she said.
Oh, that's real good.
Why they stopping me?
All right, couple rants here. We got Darylyn 10. Thanks for all the great content. Thank you, Darylyn, for the rant. Appreciate that. Lee Walden. Hi, John. As far as the space station goes, there are supply ships that bring food and parts and water on a regular basis. Cigna's and CO's craft about every month. Well, hey, I figured it was something like that, but just crazy they couldn't get them back for 9 months. Yet we were able to land on the moon in 1969. No problem, without a hitch. First try. Well, I guess technically not first try, we're told, but whatever. You get where I'm going with that. Nuke Hayes says, John, can you give an estimate for VIP tickets for Deadwood, please? Trying to budget for me and wife to attend. I do not feel at liberty to give estimates on tickets. because I feel like that could eventually be held against me, either by you guys who may be attending or by Mrs. Bright, who I see in the chat. And sometimes she scares me. So I'm going to hold off on giving an estimate, but I will talk to her about that. We should probably get those posted at some point. But anyway, guys, stick around. Badlands. Lots of great content. Badlands Live is going on right now. Badlands Live 9 to 5. Oh, we got a new show tonight, by the way. CanCon and Ash, they do their book club. You know, they're doing it on their own channels, and they're bringing it over to Badlands. So the Badlands book club is starting today at 6 Eastern. So I think that'll be fun. I've been wanting a book club for a while. So anyway, have a great rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here on Badlands Media.